So I think we're all here. So a few more than expected. I'm happy to see that. And thank you very much for coming. And for those who just arrived, my name is Michael Hoffman. And besides being the CEO of LeanMail, I've been collaborating with leaders in startups to Fortune 500 companies around the world as an executive coach. That's my other hat. I've been doing that for over 18 years. I'm originally from New York. I had a career as a symphony orchestra conductor before all of this. And so let me just tell you that the LeanMail method and add-in was developed after having studied Lean exhaustively and researching every solution I could with using Outlook without any kind of external modifications. Right. So I tinkered and I tinkered until I realized that tinkering was not a viable solution. And I think to some degree, that's why everyone's here today. You know, what does Michael know that I haven't tried already? And in a nutshell, you're going to learn why you haven't been able to reach that level of productivity that you have in other areas of your work, right? I'm sure you're all very disciplined and very functional people. And so why is it that kind of everything else works, but then when you get to your inbox, it's always cranky. It's always asking for more than you can give it. It never feels like you have completed things, right? There's this feeling of incompletion all the time because it's always full of stuff to do. And so we're going to work on that today. That's going to be, we're going to try to expose that, or I'm going to try to expose that. And notice on my screen here, it says not tips and tricks, right? This is not a tips and tricks course. So as we move through the session, I want you to be thinking about how you're going to decide whether or not this is for you. And the best way to do that is to ask yourself these questions as you're going through my presentation. And I should be able to convince you of these things, that number one, that you could get a transformative improvement, not just a minor enhancement over your method. So if while we're going through this presentation, you feel that I haven't accomplished communicating to you that this is going to be so much better, then I wouldn't try it if I were you, right? The second thing is it better be simple. If you don't feel like, as I go through this, and finally I will give you a demonstration, and if you don't feel like this is going to be dumb, simple to use, I wouldn't try it. And thirdly, if you couldn't return to your original setup very quickly, like within a minute, then I wouldn't try it either. Now, the last part I will guarantee, right? Because there's no way for you to know that. But obviously, we couldn't work with Fortune 500 companies if people were complaining that we did something to their system and they couldn't go back quickly. So the third one, I'm just simply going to guarantee. The first two, you'll have to make up your mind about as we go through this. And I want you to all remember that today is the day you're deciding. Right? Today you're saying, I'm going to try this, I'm not going to try this. Because we don't have time for all that ambiguity in our lives. That's kind of like what's going on in your inbox too, right? All this like, well, when am I going to do this? And what is this about? All of that. We're going to clear away all that ambiguity. So today, I'm going to introduce you to a new methodology based upon lean thinking. And it's not a prerequisite, as I was saying earlier. It's just a nice bonus if you know something about lean. And lean, you know, if I could sum it up in one sentence, I would say that lean is doing the most with the least. Right? It's about maximizing output with minimal effort. And for our purposes today, we'll focus on three core principles as they apply to email management. And the first one is identifying value. Right? In email management, this means that recognizing that some mails are more important than others. And take a moment now and think about how you do that. How do you ensure that the most valuable emails are getting your priority, whether it's today or another day when it's due? How do you situate that in your inbox? The second one is removing waste. So whether you're an Outlook beginner or seasoned expert, there's room for you to remove about between 20 and 60% of the unnecessary steps that you take in managing your email. Think about that. You might think you're like the biggest pro in Outlook, and I'm going to take away half the stuff that you're doing today by putting in some extra functionality for you so that you don't repeat things all the time. And I'm not just talking about deleting emails. Everybody thinks that I'm going to give you some tool to just delete everything. I will. But think about the time and energy you spend scanning your inbox, right? When you come to your inbox, do you just go to work on the most important and urgent things? No, you don't. You're like looking through things, and we have to get rid of all of that waste. The third one is continuous improvement. And think about it. Does anybody here feel like they're so much better than they were last year at handling email? By the way, does anybody feel that way? Anybody? No? Oh. No, because basically we have this tool, we've been using it for a long time. If we found some ingenious method for using it better, we would have taken it. But we're just kind of rummaging through and coping with email. During my talk today, it's going to be very important, as Boss just did, and as another, I didn't catch the person who mentioned it, but about my screen. Interrupt me. This is for you guys. So interrupt me at any point to get clarifications, to get a better understanding, to tell me to get deeper into something. Just stop me, because otherwise I'm going to keep going like a bullet train so I don't bore anybody. That's my biggest fear, is to put you to sleep. So I'm going to keep going rapidly, and then you say, hold the train. So I want to be clear. It's not you, right? If you're here today, it's obviously you have a strong interest in improving how you manage your inbox. So it's likely that you've already tried a million methods. And the reality is that no one has truly cracked the code when it comes to managing email. Everyone struggles with it. If there had been one person of the 400 million users that had figured this out, everybody'd know about it by now, right? They'd give you like some course, or they would, there'd be some document on the internet that say, do this, right? It's just not there, unless there's some big conspiracy. And trust me, the world really is round, okay? So what's going on? Why is it that we're not able to crack this code? And let's consider what's been happening in technology during the same time period between 2004 and 2024 in the automobile industry. Let's take a look at that as a comparison to what's going on in Outlook. Now, 20 years ago, cars had cassette decks. I hope somebody remembers that. And they had these tiny, this was like the cutting edge Mercedes in 2004, right? I tried to find the most advanced car of 2004 so that I could compare it, give it a fair comparison. And it had GPS, it had a cassette deck, but compare that to what's going on now in 2024. You don't even have to drive. Automatic braking, lane assist, and even now full autonomy. In Germany, and there are some people here from Germany today, you probably know that you don't even have to hold the steering wheel legally on some German roads to drive the latest Mercedes with the full autonomy. That's how far we've gotten. I want to now juxtapose this Outlook. So here's the old Outlook from 2004, okay? And you had the folders on the left, and you had the emails in the middle, and then you had the reading pane on the right. And now let's juxtapose that with the most latest version. And here we are. Well, we have the folders on the left. The emails are in the center, and it's the same, isn't it? Mm-hmm. What's changed? In 20 years, nothing. Do you think email has changed a bit in 20 years? Do you think we're getting more? People say, well, we use Teams now, and we use different chat functionalities. Well, guess what, folks? Email has continued every single year to increase by 3.4% about. Okay, so it's not because we have more channels that we have less emails. We just simply have more communication. So there's the problem. It's not you. You just don't have enough tools to make it work. You're using tools from 20 years ago to try to deal with the problems of today. And here's what's really happening for you. I'm going to point out 9 different things. I'm going to go very quickly through these 9 things, but just to touch upon them. And if you feel like there's something I'm missing, shout it out. So first, there's volume, right? Not everybody has tremendous volume, but a lot of people are getting lots of email. Then there's, hey, how do I prioritize that? Outlook isn't really great for doing that. There are certain things that you can do to put it on like today, tomorrow, or a week from now, but and even that is not very helpful. But that's not priority, is it? That's urgency. And how do we match those things? Then there's the planning. How do you plan your email? That's more involved in urgency. How do you say, okay, this one I need to do in 2 weeks when Yen is back? Or time. How much time are you spending there? Do you feel like you're tied to email? Do you feel like every time you have a break in between meetings, you jump to your email? How responsive are you? Do you feel like you're hitting these things correctly? For instance, if somebody says, I need it in a week from now, are you going to remember to do that in a week? Right? How do you remember those things? Do you respond when you promise to respond? Oh, I'll get back to you today, and then you realize you didn't do that. Then there's the search functionality, which is just awful. I don't have to tell you more about that. All of this is causing stress, and you're creating all kinds of systems to try to deal with that. But in the end, you're on this hamster wheel. Did I capture that correctly? What do you think? Is there anything else that I'm missing? Okay.
It's recognizable.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. I love it. So what's going on here is there's no official manual for processing email effectively in Outlook. So everybody's coming up with their own systems. I'm sure that if I went around the room to everybody, and I'm not going to do that, everybody would tell me their particular way of doing it. And we all know that variation is not a great thing in a business, right? We don't want a lot of variation. We want something that works, that can be copied, that everybody can use. And I'm not saying that everybody will use our system the same way, because our system is modularized, so it's very customized to the individual's use depending on your needs. Some people have lots of volume, some people not. So you're not going to get the same tools, right? But think of a workaround as putting a bandage on a broken arm. It's going to help temporarily, but it's not going to help the underlying issue. So some people will do this one. This is probably the most popular one, right? As a matter of fact, about 80% of Outlook users will use mark as unread. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't tell you if it's urgent or important. Nothing. It doesn't give you any information except, well, I better get back to that mail. And here's what you look like when you're doing that. You look at the mail, then you mark it as unread, and then you go back and you mark it as unread, and then you look at it again, and then you mark it as unread. It's just silliness, right? There's no progress in that, so not very helpful. Some people put mails in folders to remember to get back to them, and then, oh, they forgot that folder, right? So very inconsistent methods. Some people will right-click and go through a menu of 6 steps in order to put a reminder on it, and then they end up just snoozing the mails, right, in bulk. Right? They pop up all in bulk, and you go snooze. We have rules, right? Rules are good. We use rules, but they certainly don't help you do your work. It just puts the work in some other place. Then there are opening drafts. A lot of people will do that, and they'll just keep them open until they get them done, hoping that Outlook is not going to crash at any point and they'll lose all of that. So also, not designed. Outlook wasn't designed for you to do something like that. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Dragging to tasks. I don't know if you know this, but you can drag a mail to your task icon and drop it, and it'll create a task out of that mail. That's useful. We use that sometimes as well for mails that require quite a bit of work, but not for mails that you're just holding on for a few days to get back to somebody, right? The same thing with the calendar. If you put something in your calendar, not only is it going to be confusing for you, but also what if you don't do it on that day and forget to drag the mail forward in your calendar? You're going to forget all about that as well. Then we leave Outlook altogether, go to Teams, or try to put stuff in an Excel sheet. We'll even start writing things down or putting on Post-it notes. It's just not great. It's not consistent. It's not even an Outlook, right? So there's a reason why LeanMail has been the clear leader of email management for so many years. It's because we've simplified this by adding a little bit of software. So there are only 2 steps. By the way, if we made it 3 steps, we'd lose everybody. We know that. It's got to be 2 steps or less. That's just the way people are, and we're not going to change humanity. So the first part of this is simply prioritizing by either deleting or archiving a mail or assigning a high or normal priority. And notice we only have 2 priorities. Again, if it were 3 priorities, people would fall in the middle of ambiguity, right? It's either really important or it's not. Something you got to take care of. Doesn't mean that you don't need to take care of it, but the stuff that's really important, the stuff that you lose sleep over, that should be at the top. And the other stuff should be below that. Not the most recent mails that came in. The most important should be at the top. It only makes sense. So there's a triage. Okay, that's the first thing we do. You come to an inbox, you triage your mails. You delete or you archive or you mark it as a high or a normal priority, period. Okay, when you're done with that, half your mails are gone, and now you plan the rest. Now, the first thing you want to do is, if it's something you can answer immediately, like, now you're staring at the highly important mails at the top of your inbox, well, if you can do it in less than 2 minutes, don't do anything more than that. Follow David Allen's 2-minute rule and just get it done. But the rest of those, you're going to want to add a deadline to. And I'm going to show you such an easy way to do that while also adding a next action to that. We'll get more into that a little bit later. So once you start following a process, you'll stop watching TV in your inbox. And what do I mean by watching TV? I'm talking about the habit of zapping through your emails, like flipping through late-night TV channels, hoping to find something interesting, something new, right? Something that gets your dopamine going. And we all check mails between meetings, but actually we're not adding any value to the process by looking through an inbox. We're just getting nervous. We're just adding more stress to ourselves. So in email, we're shifting from simply checking mails to actively processing them in a structured way, this 2-step method. So there's no more passive browsing. So it's really just a simple add-in that we add to your Outlook. It doesn't touch your data. There's no AI. There's a little bit of AI, but nothing significant. And just some smart macros, some filters, some automation. But don't let the simplicity fool you. That's what Lean is all about. It's adding something so simple, and yet it creates an epiphany for you, because suddenly you get all of these benefits. Okay, and this is what we're guaranteeing to you. Every mail is going to be acted upon at the right time and in the right order. Every single mail in your inbox, right? You're not going to answer things that you could have answered 2 weeks from now today. It's going to be from 2 weeks from now, because you decide that. And the stuff that absolutely has to go out today will go out today. You're going to find your archived mails instantly. It's going to be impossible to be late or miss a mail, and you're going to reduce all your clutter, and at the end of the day, have inbox zero. And I mean real inbox zero, not this BS that you see about people putting things into folders and so on. No, your today view will be zero, and you'll feel like, hey, I've done everything I need to do today. I'm finished. You will feel like you're finished in your inbox. Okay. So now I need a volunteer. And Nicola, would you mind volunteering for me?
Okay.
I need you to put these in the right order. Can you do that for me? What goes first?
Well, actually, depends where you start.
Depends where you start?
Eat dinner.
That sounds like a good place to start.
Brush teeth, set alarm, and sleep.
Awesome. That was 100% correct. Pretty intuitive. Let's see how you do on the next one. I'm going to read these first for you so you can review them, because it's not as easy as brushing your teeth and eating and so on. So the first one says, act upon high priority tasks due today. The second one says, get an overview and organize tasks by urgency and importance. The third says, act upon important tasks due in the future that you can't respond to today. And the fourth one says, act upon tasks due today that are not as important but urgent. So basically, I've covered the gamut of all possible emails in these 4 different sentences. So, Nicola, what would you do first?
Well, if I look at what you said before, the first one sounds important. Act upon high priority tasks due today. But how would I know that if I didn't get an overview first and organize the task by urgency and importance? So that would be the first, because otherwise I wouldn't know.
Follow Nicola's logic and notice how well she actually communicates that to everybody. Wow, I'd love to have you on my team. Okay, so that's number 1. So we're getting an overview. What do we do next?
I mean, then I would go to the first one, act upon high priority, that is due today, because that's both important.
Good. Now it's going to get trickier. So do you then act upon important tasks due in the future that you can't respond to today? Or should you act upon the tasks due today that are not as important? What do you think?
I would do the last one first, because the third one, you can't respond today, that already answers my question if I can do it today.
Okay.
So I would first do the...
Nicola, you just became an expert in LeanMail. Okay.
Thank you.
And let's face it, I did not train you. You
Nope.
you looked at that list, and why is it that you were able to do that so well and perfectly? Because it's intuitive, because it's obvious if you think about it a little bit, right? We had to think a little bit, but once we did that, when you look at this list, 1, 2, 3, 4, it should be pretty obvious that that's the way to approach your inbox. So then, Nicola, why aren't you doing that? Right? I'm being facetious here. I know that you would love to do it that way, but Outlook is just not very helpful in letting you do that. That's the point I'm trying to make today, is that you all know what you should be doing, and then you have a tool that gets in the way, and it's not really fair. Look how your inbox is sorted. Right, if we think about what efficiency and effectiveness means, efficiency is doing things quicker and better, whereas effectiveness is doing the right things. And so what we're trying to do is combine efficiency and effectiveness together in the way we're working. That's the idea here. And to do that, we need a systematic method according to what you think is correct. Peter, you raised your hand? No. Okay. So something in there. Okay.
A colleague just.
Yeah. No problem. No problem. So here's the way your mails are sorted. Very hard not to work this way in your inbox. It really doesn't help you at all, except focus you on the latest things, which is, basically focusing. If you know the Covey or the Eisenhower quadrant of importance and urgency, it's helping you to focus on the third quadrant. That is urgent and not important, right? Because most mails are not urgent and important, and you tend to look at them anyway. So not a great way of seeing your inbox. And face it, the €1 million contract could be at the bottom of your list, and the new Facebook friend could be at the top of your list. Doesn't make any sense for you how things are ordered. And if you think about the old ways, I remember the old analog mail. Those days are soon leaving us. People don't remember what it is to get mail anymore. But in the old days, what executives did and other knowledge workers, they would have something like this, and they'd put junk in one pile and they'd put stuff to file in another, and then they'd have 2 for stuff they needed to do, and then the important and urgent. What happened to that in email? It never arrived. right? I mean, some people try to do that in folders. You can't really combine urgency and importance in a regular folder. It doesn't work, right? So it really left us to our own means, and we've suffered for the last 30 years. What we should be doing is applying the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule, which is a very natural business rule that's been around for 120 years. And basically what it's saying is that 20% of what you do accounts for 80% of your outcomes. So pay attention, right? 80% of your web traffic comes from 20% of your web pages. 80% of your delays come from 20% of your tasks. 80% of your sales come from 20% of your customers. Do you not believe that? Is anybody here saying, no, that's not true? Yeah, it is true. Almost. I'm not saying it's exactly that way, but it's around that. The inverse is true too. You probably wear 20% of your socks 80% of the time, right? So there's the big difference between really important and not so important. It's the same thing in your inbox. So 20% of your mails really matter. They are responsible for 80% of your output. 80% of what you do is actually pretty trivial, and you could probably throw them away and nobody's going to notice. Seriously, you could probably throw them away and it wouldn't harm the business too much. But it might even do a lot of good for the business, right? Because so much time consumed in that stuff and so little output, so little value from that. So what if, through our methodology, you could have the most important mails at the top always, and the other 80% below that? Nothing else in your inbox. All the waste is deleted. All the way, we're talking now because you've done that first step, right? You've deleted, you've archived, and you've divided what's left according to how important they are. And then you lock that in place. It's not going to move. Those high priority mails are not going to seep down into your inbox. Lower into your inbox. They're going to stay at the top. And then you're wondering, well, what about the new mails that come in? Well, they do come in. They just don't come in this specific filter. So you can go in there and do exactly the same thing to get them sorted out by clicking on a few buttons. That's all you do is you're clicking on a few buttons. So is there a cost to this? Clicking on those buttons? Think about how you go through your emails today. Don't you click on the emails as you go through your list? You click, you go from one to the next, looking at them. You just don't add any value whatsoever when you do that. However, when you click on a button, high priority or delete, whatever, it does the same thing. It brings you to the next mail, but you've now added value. You've made decisions. That's the most important thing, and that's why you're paid, is to make decisions, not just to look through stuff. When you look through stuff, you're just wasting time. You're watching TV, as I mentioned before. There we go. So in the end, when you've gone through this process of triage, you've answered anything that's really quick, obviously. There's no waste in your inbox. Everything's in the order of importance. And you've previewed all your mails to get that overview. You know what's in there. That's why AI isn't going to help you. Because if AI would be able to do this, which it can't because there are too many variables, you wouldn't know what's in your inbox, right? It wouldn't make any sense. Any questions about this part here? This part is called LeanMail Prioritize. It's the first module. You can only have that if you want. So look at the difference. Same cost per click, right? Same amount of clicking, and this is the outcome on the right that you get or received, and this is the outcome that we get where your mails are in priority. There's no junk. You know you've got to do all of those mails. All of them need to be done. And you see your high versus your normal priority. Okay, let's move on. Because there's something really missing here, and that is urgency. It's one thing to know what's important. It's another thing to know what's urgent, right? When I talk about importance, I put my hand on my heart. What's the most important thing in your life? What's the most important thing in your life?
Your family.
Your family. Is that going to
Your
change
health.
tomorrow?
Healthy.
Is that going to change tomorrow? No.
No.
We're going to change these ideas of importance. If you're a sales guy, are you going to, what's the most important thing? Your customer, right? If you're customer service, your customer, right? That's always going to get to the top of your list. Not Frank from accounting, your customer. Priorities don't really change too much. Urgencies change, like when you can do things. So think about what you're thinking when you're going through your emails. Oh, this is not so important. I can wait until Friday. Oh, this is really important, but I can't do it till next week. I just need this for my meeting tomorrow. That's the kind of stuff that goes in our heads. And yet we're paralyzed. We can't really do anything about that. We just try to remember those things. Each single mail has a level of urgency. You can see here the two most urgent mails, right? They're mixed in with the rest. Look at it in reality. This is showing 200 mails exactly, by the way. 200 mails. And most people have more than that in their inbox. And all these really urgent mails are scattered throughout. Now, I'm just showing the most important and urgent mails in this. The reality is a lot more like this. This is showing you like 10% of actually, I can't put in all those arrows and it'll get too messy. But that's the idea here, is that there's no way you can remember this stuff. Really, you just want somebody to show you what to do. Please show me what I need to do in my inbox Outlook. That's what I need. So we decided we would do that by taking some of that real estate and putting a button there called Today. And when you click on that button, it'll just show you the stuff you need to do today. And by the way, we'll make sure that you have been able to take a note if you want to, so that you don't have to reread the mail. Right? All that rereading, that's half the time we spend wasted in Outlook. And by the way, why not put it in the right order? Since we did that in the first module, let's add the two modules together. So now that we have priority and urgency combined in one dashboard, no reminders, you see what's going on. You can decide which ones to do based upon your own view of them. Right? So it's not just a reminder saying, oh, you've got to do this one now. Yeah, but what about the other ones? Maybe there's something else that's even more important. No, you see exactly what is due today, and you see the top ones. And if you decide, well, it's not that important, you can drag it down into the normal, or drag a normal one up to the top, drag and drop. Really easy to do that. So no more searching. Working according to your priorities. No more rereading. No more reanalyzing. How long do you think it takes to write in a next action, a little note? About 3, 4, 5 seconds. How long does it take to reread one mail? It's not going to be less than 5 seconds, right? So you'll win every single time. If you can't answer that mail directly, all you have to do is look at it the second time and you've lost, right? You can't beat that. That's the email plan. This gives you an idea of the time saving and control and satisfaction people get from using this. This was updated on November 11th. We update this every 2 weeks from our customers, from all our training. We send out surveys after the training, and then we add to this. It's a cumulative number, so you can see all the time how things are going there. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to go to my inbox, and I'm going to show you how this is done. Do that. Okay, so I put in some dummy mails here. This is not my inbox. Just to give you an idea. And I'm going to simply follow through those 2 steps so you can see how easy this is. So this one I'm just going to delete. This I'm going to give a normal priority. This I'll delete. These 3 I'll delete. This one I'll give a normal. This I'll give a high. This I'll give a normal. This I'll delete. And this I'll delete. That's basically what it looks like in your inbox when you're working. When you're done, it automatically shifts gears to the plan view. Why? Because there's nothing left to prioritize. They're prioritized. They have this in this column, so they don't show up here. So now I'm going to add next actions. So I'll do the first next action. I guess my caps is on. Hold on a second. I don't know. It's something with my macro. I have these programmed, but let's just keep going. So let's say we want. When do we want to do this one? Let's say we want to do it today. It automatically knows that today's the 21st. And this one is okay. That's working now. And let's say we want to do this tomorrow. Well, I could write tomorrow, but I could also write tomorrow's the 22nd, so I'll just write it 2-2. I could have written tomorrow is Friday, right? So I'll write Friday. I could also write 2 days before Christmas. That's the little bit of AI I was telling you about, right? Okay, what about this one? I need to get to Capterra and speak to Linda and get an answer request. And let's do this in 2 weeks. And this last one. I need to find out about the Valley Conference payment method. And when do I need to do this by? Let's say we'll do it on Monday. That's it. Now notice, it shifts again to the next and final section. So the first step was to prioritize using these buttons. The second step was to answer any emails that took less than 2 minutes. And for our purposes, I did not do that. I simply planned all the mails. And then it brings me to my today view, where there are other mails that I didn't plan right now from previously, right? So it combines all of those. Now I see the mails. And notice that there's one mail that is already from the 14th. So it's been sitting around here for that long, right? Now I can leave it there because you'll never lose something from the past. But I can also say, well, let's add 5 days to that. And now it's up to date. Okay. Notice the different sections. You have hi, you have my post-it, which I'll get to in a moment. You have normal, and you have personal. Okay. And let's say I decided actually these two are normal priority mails. They're not really that important for me now. I just drag them down in here. Now, this post-it, this is a task that I can put in my inbox amongst my emails so that I can have mini tasks, nothing that you're going to spend a lot of time on, and within my emails. And the way I do that is I simply double-click in my screen here, and it's going to come up on my other screen, and I'll say, remember the milk on my way home. And it shows right up here, automatically a next action is put in, automatically a date is put in, which of course I can change. And then my post-it. I can also decide, well, I want to make this a high priority, and I can do that. This is your dashboard. These two previous to that are the 2 steps to make sure that all your mails, and here I'm going to show all the mails now according to when they're due. So these are the ones that are due today. These are the ones that are due tomorrow. And notice that I might have planned this for today, but maybe the meeting was moved for tomorrow. So I'm going to move this mail to tomorrow. And notice it lines up with the other Sylvia mails, right? So it'll find out, it will always group the mails together. And for instance, this Valley Conference, well, this one I might want to drag up here. So now all 3 Valley Conferences and all Sylvia's, and if for some reason this meeting with Sylvia was moved until the 26th, I just drag it to the 26, all of them, and they still all stay together. I'm working from here. Any questions?
Michael, I have a question.
Yeah.
So this is there's a plugin to Outlook. Your service provider is a plugin to the Outlook.
That in the training.
And
Yes.
this is for enterprise licensing or per user?
When you say enterprise licensing, what we
Because
can.
I don't know. There's we only have 12 people here, but I expect you look for a bigger population, right? So it's a plugin to the. You can do it by individual Outlook or.
You could do it by individual. You can also IT can source it out. They can push it out centrally. There are many ways that it can be done. But in the beginning, typically when we run a pilot, it'll be just individually. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So no problem. And we work with lots and lots of very large organizations and some smaller organizations too.
Okay. So okay then. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, actually, I had the same question as Queenie. Yeah, because like I understood that the plugins are roll out for everyone and not for individuals. But if that's an option, that would be awesome.
It's absolutely optional. You can be 2 people in a 100,000 person company, or you can be 100,000 people and roll it out that way centrally from. And we do that. It depends on the different companies that we're working with.
Right.
It
would depend on the internal policy for sure, right? But yeah, I'm not aware of on the details. I got an extra question there.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just thinking about the new Outlook. Wondering if that's also applied in the new.
So no,
Outlook
because the
version.
new Outlook is a browser. So this is for the desktop version.
Okay, I think I currently holding the. Well, maybe it's an in-app solution installed in my desktop, but yeah, you got as well the turn in and off button at the top of right of your screen, right? So
Yeah.
probably that's going to the browser then.
Yeah, if you turn on the new Outlook, you then leave the desktop version and go into the cloud.
Okay. Then I installed that version, and it looks like a desktop version for me because I'm using the new Outlook. But it's good to know that it's a cloud version. Okay, thank you.
So the real difference between the new Outlook is they've stripped away any add-ins because you can't use it with the browser, and stripped away a lot of functionality to make it easier to roll that out. But they're very. I don't know of any major benefits to that, except it's easier for Microsoft. Right. And look, eventually we will have a browser version, because I'm sure that in a few years Outlook will be just browser. That won't be. I know that it won't be at least until 2029. So we have a little time. Yeah.
Good.
So, was there anybody here that thought this could be interesting to try? What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, sure. I think this is great. I think also will help me because I do the same thing as Susanna mentioned. I also flag emails and I put dates to it. What you said, it can be done. It's helpful, but you will not do that to your bulk of your emails. You will select those that you think are relevant enough to take that action for. So I will not apply flags and follow-up actions to any single email.
And so, one big difference that you're pointing out is consistency. So it's not going to be like some things you do a certain way and other things you do another way. You're just going to follow 2 steps, and it's going to be so much easier. And basically, I'll show you at the end of this deck here. So, as you can see here, at the bottom it says LeanMail softwareizes is everything I want to do in Outlook but can't. So the idea being that you already do a lot of things to help yourself with Outlook, but if I could only do this, if I could only do that, and that was the whole point of us creating software was, hey, you can, if you put this in, you can see exactly what needs to be prioritized, what needs to be planned, what needs to be done today, and what needs to be done on the following days. Where is that mail that I need to do on Thursday? There it is, right? I haven't shown you several other parts. I've only shown you 2 modules today. There are 5, right? Let's say a lot of volume. We have a module for that separates the essential from non-essential emails. What about shared inboxes? Does anybody here use a shared inbox where you share it with other people?
That was about to be my next question. We use them, yes.
So we have optimized that so much so that we remove 70% of the waste that goes on in an inbox like that. That includes 70% of the time spent there. Right. So just so you see how this works in terms of getting started, if you're interested, we'll do a training that's 90 minutes. After the training, you decide go, no go. If you go, we invoice you. And then afterwards, there is another training, and then a training and coaching. And then we continually help you. And that means getting online with you if you ever need any of our assistance. So it's not just chat or email help. We actually get online with you if you need any help there. We have a very highly satisfactory personalized assistance. So that's it. That is the way it works. And Bob, I suppose you will get together with your team afterwards and find out their true opinions about this and whether or not you'd like to form a group in order to try LeanMail. And that would be the start. So we would try that, do a small pilot, and from there, from your physical experience with it, we could find out if we could go further.
Thank you, Michael. Obviously, I am interested. If not, I would not have suggested to have this meeting with my team members and some from another group. We all struggle with a lot of emails. I also try to flag, but in the end, I had so many flags that I lost priorities also. So I'm not flagging anymore. It's just read or unread. That's it, and I put some things in the agenda. That's how I try to remember things. Sometimes I put things in writing, and I do think that if you do that from the beginning with the few buttons, it's a lot quicker than to go into the flag system and you have to push 4 or 5 buttons, maybe whatever, and you don't have an action, and it takes a lot more time, and you do everything on the same time. So. For me, it's interesting. We do have a big company with very strict IT rules. So if people are interested, we have to talk about that, how we can manage the pilot.
So all that is you set up a meeting with me and IT, and it's just a 15-minute meeting, and we solve that.
Yeah, I think so. But, as you said, the first step is that I have to arrange a meeting between all of us to get everyone's opinion. I don't think people are holding back, but I would like to hear what they really think about it, if they feel it could work or not work. And that will be the next step.
I think it's not so much about if it could work or it couldn't work. I think it's more like, do we want to give it a try? Right. Because the other side to that is not trying something new, right? And continue. The example of Susanna, for instance, of I can kind of do that with this, and I can kind of do that with that. Continue. If you think that you're productive enough, I'm not going to convince you. But for those people who think, it's true that the technology hasn't changed in all these years. Maybe there's something to this. Maybe I'm not an idiot after all, trying so hard every day with my emails. And what if I could cut it in half like Michael's promising? And think about this. I'm actually doing an entire training without charging, there's probably a reason, and that's because 94% of the people that take the training after this workshop will continue on.